Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. Our topic for today is skin structure. But before that, did you know that our skin is covering an average of 20 square feet? And our skin is the largest and heaviest organ. The job of our skin is to protect our inside and outside. Our skin is contains of 650 sweat glands and 20 blood vessels. So let us move on to skin structure. Our skin has three basic levels. First is the epidermis, the dermis, and hypodermis. Next, try to look at this picture. This layer represents epidermis. The second layer represents dermis. Third layer represents hypodermis. So let us know the meaning of epidermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer. It is a waterproof barrier that gives skin its tone. There's common cell type of epidermis called keratinocytes, and their job is to act as a barrier against bacteria, parasites, fungi, viruses, heat, and ultraviolet rays from the sun, and water loss. Epidermis contains no blood vessels. Between epidermis and dermis, there is a thin sheet fibers called the basement membrane. The epidermis is subdivided into 5 layers. First, the stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, and stratum germ- germinativum. Germinativum. Next is the dermis. The dermis is mostly connective tissue and it protects the body from stress and strain. It gives the skin strength and elasticity. If the dermis is stretched a lot, for instance during pregnancy, the dermis can be torn and this shows up as well so-called stretch marks. The main rules of dermis is to make sweat and oil. It also provides sensations from blood to the skin and it grows our hair. Dermis is the house of follicles, blood vessels, and lymphatic vessels. It also home to a number of glands, including sweat glands and sebaceous glands. So the dermis is further split into 2 layers. First is the papillary region, made of loose connective tissue. It has finger-like projection that push into the epidermis. Second is reticular region, made of dense, irregularly organized connective tissue. Protein fibers in the reticular region give the skin its strength and elasticity. Next is hypodermis. The deepest layer is called subcutaneous tissue. The hypodermis or subcutis. It is not technically part of the skin but helps to attach the skin to underlying bone and muscle. Subcutaneous tissue also provides skin with nerve and blood supplies. The main role of subcutaneous tissue is to attach dermis to the body and control temperature and stores fat. Hypodermis are made by fat cells called hypodermis. Next is the rules of skin in our body. First is protection. Protection against pathogens. Second is storage, store lipids and sensation. Nerve endings detect temperature, pressure, vibration, and touch and injury. Fourth is control water loss. The skin prevents water from escaping by evaporation. And fifth is water resistance. It prevents the nutrients from being washed from the skin And 6 is thermoregulation. By producing sweat and dilating blood vessels, the skin helps keep the body cool, and blood vessels constriction help us to retain heat. So let us move on to types of bones. So before that, what is bones? Bones protect the various organs of the body, produce red and white blood cells, store minerals, provide structure and support the body, and enable mobility. So there are four types of bones. Four major types of bones. First is long bones, short bones, flat bones, and irregular bones. So let us note the meaning of long bones. The primary characteristic that differentiates long bones from the other types of bones is that long bones have a sharp and that is much longer than it is wide. And short bones. Short bones are shaped similarly to a cube. Unlike long bones, short bones have a thin layer of compact bone and are mostly filled with spongy bones. Short bones are not as solid and sturdy as long bones because they have less compact bones and more spongy bone, making them more sus- susceptible to compression and even breaking. Example of short bones is the ankle and wrist. Next is flat bones. Flat bones have larger flat surfaces. The primary purpose of flat bones is to protect the body's organs and as a site of muscle attachment. So let's move on to irregular bones. Irregular bones are bones that do not fall into the category of long, short, or flat are considered irregular bones. The shape, size, and composition of irregular bones varies. The vertebrae and some of the skull bones are irregular. Next is, let's move on to muscle. So what is muscle? Muscle is a tissue composed of cells or fibers, the contraction of which produces movement in the body. It is an organ composed of muscle tissue that contracts to produce a particular movement. Let us move on to major muscles of the body and their functions. So, anatomically, according to the difference in their structure, muscles are divided into three different types. First is the skeletal muscles, the smooth muscles, and the cardiac muscles. Bicep and triceps. These are the front and back muscles of the arm. Bicep causes flexion of the forearm, while tricep causes extension of the forearm. And next is rotator cuff and deltoid. These are the major muscles of the shoulder. Deltoid is responsible for the abduction and flexion of the shoulder. And next is chest, core, and back. Chest comprises two prominent muscles, the pectoralis major and the pectoralis minor. Both muscles function to generate force for pushing objects away from the body. Next is thighs and legs. Thighs and legs contain an opposing group of muscles. Anterior group of thigh muscles called quadriceps causes extension of leg while the posterior group called hamstring causes flexion of the leg. That's all